Greetings guys and welcome back to another video in this how to make series, and this time it is for the mini WWE spinner belt. For this tutorial video, I won't cover all the details like the materials and some steps as I have already covered it before in my first tutorial video. So if you'd like to know more about those, I'll place a link to the first video of the series over here. Now, even though this tutorial is for a mini one, everything that is in this video can be applied to a larger one. All you need is to use more materials and some additional steps. So without further ado, let's move on to how to make the mini WWE spinner belt. The first step in this belt making process is to draw your template. I already have mine from the previous larger belt that I made. As you can see here, I have separated the components that should either be with a different color or it should be stacked on the plate. Now we just have to glue these templates onto the cardboard, wait for them to dry, and then cut out all the components like so. Now, we need to cut out the rest of the parts. After cutting all these, we now have these components. The main plate, the first side plate, and the last side plate. Now, we need to glue all these pieces together. Just make sure that the alignment is correct and adjust if necessary. Like before, I will not be gluing all the parts right now, because some of these will be painted separately. Some of these parts need to be completely separate because they need to spin freely. And we have pieces which will have to be stacked to accommodate the spinner. Now for the main plate, before gluing the component, we first have to test the tolerance of the parts, if it will allow it to spin. This one seems to be okay. However, after gluing, I had to make a few adjustments to make sure that it would work correctly. For these parts which will make up the edges of the belt, I will not be gluing them now because they will be painted in silver. Now I am doing a test fit to see how it's going to look after everything has been assembled. Now all that's left to do is to paint all the pieces. Before I painted the plates, I have installed the component which will make the spinner spin freely. For this, I am using a very small ball bearing which will fit into the hole that I made earlier on the main plate. Now before gluing this, I am testing it to make sure that it would work, and I will make the necessary adjustments if it does not. To glue this ball bearing into place, I am going to use super glue just to make sure that it would stay in place. And if we have done things right, it should now spin freely. Alright, now we have all the components painted, and I have also assembled some parts, except the spinner parts which will go in last. This is in preparation for the next step, which is to place all these stones over these plates. We are going to be using different types of stones in the different parts of these plates. Now, if you needed a lot of patience on the network logo belt, we will surely need a whole lot more with this spinner, as it is loaded with plenty of stones. All around, you'd probably need more than 500 pieces of these stones in order to finish the belt. I have already applied some just to test it out, and for these, it took me quite some time to apply them. Like before, we are going to glue these stones individually by hand, using this tweezer. Now I'm going to finish placing these stones on the plates, and when I come back, we will see the results. And finally, we have these stone studded plates. This probably took me about a few hours just to finish all these stones. And we have this side plate. I used two types of stones for this. One around the perimeter and one inside the space. And the next side plate, where we have stones on the perimeter, on the WWE lettering, and on the eagle. And of course, the main plate, which is heavily studded all around. Now let's check the spinner if it works. And it works well. I am really happy on how this turned out. Lastly, to complete the plates, I have placed these post screws, which will be used to attach the plates to the strap. Now that the plates are finished, we will move on to the next component, the strap. For the strap, we will be using this craft foam. This will be the main bulk of the strap. Now I have this template that I made for the strap, and I will trace this down onto the foam using this silver pen. Again, do not worry if your lines are messy because it will be covered by the faux leather. All that needs to be done now is to cut out the strap. And we have this. Then we take this piece of faux leather, which will serve to cover the strap. Now you have two ways on how to approach this. You could either cut the leather before gluing it onto the foam, or you could glue it first onto the foam and then cut around the foam after. It is completely up to you which would you prefer. And we have something like this. A strap which looks like a leather strap and is still flexible. Now this is optional, but you could take a black marker and then color around the edges just to make it seamless. In preparation for the final assembly, I have punched out all the holes and I have installed the snaps as well. If you would like a detailed look on how this was done, please watch the first video in this series, which I will link here. Now all that's left to do is to assemble everything together. We first place the plates onto the strap by aligning it into the pre-punched holes. I placed a microfiber towel just to prevent any scratches on my plates. And then we place the screws. And we tighten them just to secure the plates to the strap. After all these, we are finally done, and congratulations, you have now a completed WWE spinner belt that actually spins. You can check out a review that I made on this specific belt, and if you'd like to see it, I'll place a link over here. And there you have it, folks. Those were my steps on how I made this mini WWE spinner belt, and I am very happy on how this one turned out. If you liked this video, press that like button down there, and if you'd like to be updated with my upcoming projects, please consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you, and till next time.